Is Donald Trump a narcissist, or is this just another label thrown at him by the media? These questions stir up quite the controversy, don't they? They kindle debates, spark discussions, and fuel fiery arguments. Each side fervently defends their viewpoint. One thing is certain, though, these questions are not vanishing anytime soon. So, let's delve deeper. Let's dissect, analyze, and scrutinize. Stay with us as we dive into the realities and myths surrounding Trump's alleged narcissism. Before we delve deeper, let's understand what narcissism really means. Narcissism, stripped down to its bare bones, is a mental condition where an individual has an inflated sense of their own importance. It's like they're the sun, and the rest of us are merely planets revolving around them. But there's more to it. This inflated self-perception often comes with a deep-seated need for excessive attention and admiration. It's not enough for them to simply exist. They need to be seen, and not just seen but adored. Now you may think, hey, we all like a little attention now and then, right? That's true, but for those with narcissistic personality disorder, or NPD, it goes beyond the occasional craving for validation. This need is persistent, all-consuming, and often comes at the expense of others. Another key aspect of narcissism is troubled relationships. Because the world of a narcissist is so self-centered, they often struggle to maintain healthy relationships. Their lack of understanding, or rather lack of interest in the feelings of others, creates a rift between them and the people around them. They are often perceived as cold, manipulative, and insensitive. Lastly, and perhaps most strikingly, is a narcissist's lack of empathy. They struggle to feel, understand, or share the feelings of others. This doesn't mean they're incapable of expressing emotion. Quite the contrary, they can be charming, charismatic, even seemingly compassionate. But beneath that facade, there's an inability to truly empathize with others, a trait that often leads to exploitative behavior. So to sum it up, narcissism is not just about being self-absorbed. It's about having an inflated sense of self-importance, a deep need for excessive attention and admiration, troubled relationships, and a lack of empathy for others. It's a complex and often misunderstood disorder that affects every aspect of an individual's life. Now that we know what narcissism is, can we see any of these traits in Trump's behavior? If we look at Trump's behavior and actions, we can see some clear indications of narcissistic traits. Firstly, let's consider Trump's inflated sense of self-importance. It's no secret that he likes to portray himself as a winner, the best at everything he does. This trait is often noticeable in his speeches, where he frequently uses superlatives to describe himself and his achievements. Words like greatest, best, most are a common part of his vocabulary when speaking about himself. This continuous self-aggrandizement is a typical characteristic of narcissism. Now, let's move on to his obsession with his image. Trump is known for his larger-than-life persona. His brand is his name, and he has spent a lifetime building and maintaining it. He's shown an intense preoccupation with his public image, often going to great lengths to control how he's perceived. This includes his infamous Twitter rants, where he often defends his reputation or attacks those who criticize him. This constant need for admiration and validation, along with the inability to handle criticism, are more signs of narcissistic behavior. But perhaps the most telling trait is his lack of empathy. Empathy requires us to put ourselves in another person's shoes, to feel their pain or joy. Trump, however, has shown time and again that he struggles with this. We've seen it in his dismissive responses to the suffering caused by natural disasters, or his lack of understanding towards people with different backgrounds and experiences than his own. This inability to empathize, to show genuine concern for others, is yet another hallmark of narcissism. These are just a few examples of how Trump's behavior aligns with the classic traits of narcissism. However, it's important to note that while these traits are indicative of narcissistic personality disorder, only a qualified mental health professional can make a definitive diagnosis. So, while we can observe and discuss these traits, we should always be careful not to label or stigmatize anyone without a professional evaluation. However, not everyone agrees with the label of narcissist being applied to Trump. There is a disparate group who view Trump's behavior not as a symptom of narcissistic personality disorder, but as a calculated and intentional strategy. They argue that his flamboyant self-promotion, grandiose claims, and seemingly unshakable self-belief are merely tools he uses to maintain his public persona, attract attention, and rally his base. Some even argue that his dismissive attitude towards criticism and his habit of belittling others are not signs of an inflated ego, but rather a shrewd tactic used to deflect attention away from issues he would rather not address. In essence, they believe that Trump is playing a character, a larger-than-life figure, and his seemingly narcissistic behavior is just part of the act. This argument underscores the importance of not diagnosing someone without a formal psychological evaluation. It's easy to label someone, especially a public figure, based on their behavior, but without a thorough evaluation by a trained professional, it's impossible to determine if someone genuinely has a personality disorder or if they're simply employing a set of strategic behaviors. Moreover, it's worth noting that narcissistic personality disorder is a serious mental health condition. It's not a term to be thrown around lightly, and using it as a casual insult can contribute to the stigmatization of mental health issues. Lastly, one could argue that focusing on whether Trump is a narcissist or not distracts from a more pressing question: is his behavior, whatever its cause, beneficial or detrimental to the role of a leader? This question goes beyond Trump and is relevant to anyone in a position of power. So, is Trump really a narcissist, or is this just a label used by his critics? As we delve further into this topic, keep in mind that the answer to this question is less about diagnosing Trump and more about understanding the impact of his behavior and what it tells us about leadership in the 21st century. Regardless of whether Trump is a narcissist or not, his behavior has had a significant impact. Let's delve into how this impact has manifested, starting with his presidency. Trump's time in the White House was marked by a distinct style of leadership that was as divisive as it was dynamic. His unfiltered communication, often via social media platforms like Twitter, allowed him to bypass traditional media outlets and connect directly with his supporters. However, this same approach also sparked controversy, with critics arguing that his tweets often lacked the decorum expected of a president. Moving on to his relationships, Trump's behavior also left its mark. His confrontational style and willingness to challenge conventional norms often put him at odds with political allies and adversaries alike. The fallout from these clashes was frequently played out in public, painting a picture of a White House in constant turmoil. Moreover, his personal relationships outside the political arena were also affected, with several high-profile fallouts and public disputes. Turning to the American public, Trump's behavior proved to be highly polarizing. His brash and often confrontational style resonated with many who felt marginalized by the political establishment, yet it also alienated others who saw it as a departure from the norms of political discourse. This polarization extended beyond the United States, impacting international perceptions of the country. Trump's behavior has also influenced the broader societal conversation about narcissism. His time in the spotlight has led to increased public awareness and debate about narcissistic personality traits. This has prompted a reevaluation of what we consider acceptable behavior, especially from those in positions of power. In essence, Trump's behavior, whether rooted in narcissism or not, has had far-reaching consequences. It has shaped his presidency, affected his relationships, and left a profound impact on the American public. It has stirred controversy, sparked debate, and in many ways, redefined the expectations of presidential conduct. In the end, whether Trump is a narcissist or not, his behavior has undoubtedly left a lasting impression. The question of Trump's narcissism is complex and multifaceted. It's a subject that we've delved into deeply, examining it from various angles, and yet it remains as elusive as a shadow in twilight. In our exploration, we've defined narcissism, a term often thrown around but rarely understood in its entirety. We've turned this lens onto Trump, scrutinizing his behavior, his statements, his lifestyle. The evidence suggests he exhibits many of the classic traits of a narcissist. His grandiosity, his need for admiration, his lack of empathy, these are hallmarks of narcissistic personality disorder. Yet, it's not a cut-and-dried case. The counter-arguments have their weight. Trump, after all, has been a successful businessman and leader, traits that could be attributed to a certain level of self-confidence and drive, often mistaken for narcissism. We've also explored the impact of his behavior. Whether narcissistic or not, Trump's actions have had far-reaching effects on not just the political landscape, but on societal norms and expectations. What kind of narcissist is Trump? The flamboyant, the malignant, the benign? The answer isn't clear. It's a complex mosaic, a jigsaw puzzle where some pieces seem to fit perfectly, while others don't. While there's no definitive answer, the discussion around Trump's potential narcissism provides a fascinating insight into his personality and leadership style. This exploration leaves us with more questions than answers, and perhaps that's the way it should be, because understanding is a journey, not a destination.